Hi everybody, Star Oracle here with a holiday installment, a post about 8th house and the narcissistic parent. In Western astrology, the narcissistic parent mostly points to the aspect of moon being mom, emotional, moon, Pluto. So I have with me today my sister. No, this is my sister Leslie. Always like to ask. And the main point of the video is going to talk to the aspect and then lead into the results of having the narcissistic parent eventually the child from child development into adult results of having the narcissistic parent. So as many as you know, I have Moon Pluto conjunct in the 8th. And just starting off, I have a stellium in the 8th house. And I'm just going to put up my chart so you guys can pause the video if you want to kind of get an idea of what has transpired in my life. So I'll hold that up. And then I also have Leslie's chart, and Leslie is a stellium in the 5th house in Aries. Okay, so with Moon Pluto conjunct, you know, we can talk to the kind of cookbook astrology meaning of that being the unconscious coming through the individual, perpetuated by the mom. And some of you know that my relationship with my mom, with her being a narcissist, I knew this at a very young age, kind of what was going on with her dynamic and how I had to deal with it. Because as a moon conjunct Pluto, as Leslie a moon opposite Pluto, we are receptors to mom's garbage, mom's shit. And anybody of you out there who has the same aspect or with siblings of the same aspect, you have a lot on your plate. So with Moon conjunct Pluto and Moon opposite Pluto, I thought this might be a good example of how each aspect plays out. With the Moon conjunct, recognizing it in the mother right away, and what her motives were all about, we started to look at Moon opposite Pluto and how it played out for my sister. So I took a couple notes. And I know for myself at a young age, my only way out of it, or not out of it, but to realize it, was to kind of buck her system, was to kind of call her on her shit. I swear a lot, and you know that, but anyway. Was to exercise what she was not exercising. And it really sucked because her as a narcissist making me play a role that she wanted, and I was like not having any of it, exuding back, I'm not going to deal with your garbage. I decided to ask my sister, well, hey, you know, how did that feel for you? So Les, I have to ask you, in regards to the projection galore and, you know, how it played out in your relationships at a later age, what truly was your experience with her as a narcissist?
Well, then I have to qualify that with you as what was it before realizing that she was a narcissist, and what was it after? Because those are two very different phases for me. One being the later being, then realizing that what she really was, coming after some, I don't know that it was my bringing it on, but my soul's bringing on the awareness of it. So as a child, I was completely unaware of it, or maybe I could say that I dissociated from it and became, as I've told you, emotionless about it. I did not have a relationship with her. I did not have any emotion towards her. And at some point in time, I became just shut down to her, and was more just trying to stay focused. I think I told you about, I became the servant. And you don't talk to servants, right? You're to be seen and not heard. Literally and figuratively, and literally and figuratively the servant, where I was cleaned the house and did all the wash.
Cinderella role.
Yeah,
right.
Cinderella role. And in all aspects of the Cinderella epic too, or whatever you want to call it.
So a lot of you Moon Pluto folks will completely relate to this, because you're fulfilling what they cannot. What's the word? What they can't accomplish themselves. So when you see these sort of through families, and I don't, you guys know I don't like to use the word karma, but you start to see the same charts, the same aspects with a narcissist, where I took on her crap. Leslie did not. Leslie went, I just want no part of this. So it's interesting, as her and I as sisters, we could have easily self-combusted ourselves and truly not understood each other, because here she is going, lady, I don't get you, hen in a handbasket, goodbye. I don't understand where you're coming from. Whereas I completely understood the crazy woman's nature, and I was not allowed. I was, hi, Kenny. I was talking about the pets in the video. I was not going to allow her to continue on this maniacal behavior. So, Les, what I do have to ask you is, as you got older, did you recognize this in your relationships? And I ask you that because I find that I did. Meaning in your intimate relationships. Did it carry? The way that I behaved with her, yes, in the sense that it was shut down. There was a sense of with Mike, my ex-husband and only husband, was, there's a sense of abandonment too for me as a kid of a narcissistic mother, that I then carried into my relationships and never wanted to be abandoned, right? And that was always, you're going to leave them before they leave you, all that hurt about that. And I actually, when I did marry somebody, and typically the men I've chosen to be in a relationship would be ones who I knew would never leave me, yes,
but that I ultimately ended up ending the relationship. So, yeah.
Yes, agreed. Now, so many of you out there who might have a sibling who has the same sort of thing going on, whether it's Moon conjunct Pluto and maybe your brother is Moon square Pluto, it is the same source that a narcissistic parent or narcissistic parents will foster. How Leslie explained, we had the abandonment theory, because many of you guys already know about my whole latchkey kid bit. I was the same way in a relationship. I sought someone out who I knew would not abandon me, but unfortunately, I once again chose someone who who reflected narcissistic traits. So it was like, it was really great that I was able to choose someone who was dedicated, but I was screwed because I chose
dedicated narcissist.
You know, I laugh a lot. Anyway, so okay, that's good. It's good we sorted that out. Well, I'm just reading my notes here. So another part of this, a huge part of this is I don't want this video to be about blame, because there's nothing, in my opinion, there is nothing worse than when I've searched YouTube, and I've done this, I've researched this topic for years and looked at many YouTube videos, and there's a blame culture, which is fine because blame gives us the out to feel good. And given society's movement today, it's a huge blame culture. And I don't want this video to be about blame at all. It's truly about self-responsibility, self-acceptance, and recognizing the horrific. As you guys know, eighth house for me, even though she's a fifth house stellium, which fifth house stellium is beautiful. It's all about creativity, which my sister is. She loves creativity to the end. But with my stuff in the eighth house, it's a lot of abuse. Not to say she did not suffer the extent of my abuse. She did. She had her own physical and emotional garbage with both the parents. I don't know if you feel comfortable enough telling that story, Leslie, or leave it to you.
Yeah, sure. I mean, there was abuse I recognize the abuse too of Darcy. One of my, talk about the latchkey. One of my early memories. We were probably, I may have been in 5th grade, so what that would have made you in not kindergarten, not even maybe preschool. Yeah. And it was summer, and I remember.
Oh, jeez. Okay, so anyway.
No, I just remember Darcy over the stove cooking a box of macaroni and cheese, and she was like 6 years old. Who does that, right?
Didn't mean for this to go that way.
No, it's okay. I'm okay. It just is really, that kind of stuff is still, for me, processing. I mean, I'm as I said earlier, it's a before and after thing. My awareness of the abuse didn't come into my awareness until we call, I don't know if they know, you call it the unit.
Most of them know that
okay, the unit.
She's a narc, but we call her the unit.
When she was passing, a lot of the stuff about the abuse was coming to me. Like, it would come to my awareness, and my guides would say, this is what happened. So anyway, that's why I'm still processing now a lot of, a lifetime of stuff. But yeah, I had the abuse. She poured hot boiling water on my leg. I had no idea. I swore, and the story is that I loved spaghetti as a kid, right? And I was in 4th grade, and she was making a big pot of spaghetti. We come from a big family, and I was standing next to her at the counter where she was going to pour the water off the pasta, and the pot slipped and poured all over my leg, and of course, 3rd-degree burns, emergency room visit. So I remember in the emergency room as a kid, 3 different ladies came up to me into the emergency room and asked me what happened, and I told each one of them the same story. I swore up and down, no, she didn't do this on purpose. No, it was, this is what happened. And I never realized who that was, which was CPS, but now I know. And then when fast forward now, 30 years, and she's passing, right? She's got cancer. It's in November, and she died in December. And it started to come to me that she did that on purpose. She did that on purpose. I'm like, wow. And we had our own thing going on within the family, Darcy and I, and about her passing and our involvement in that. And anyway, we were able to. And I don't know if you told the story about Perry, the chosen one.
Oh, okay. So I'm just gonna tap in here real quick. So normally in a narcissistic, if you have the narcissistic family, there's role players. So because I'm the youngest of 5, there's a few different roles, and there's always a golden child, always a scapegoat, always a joker, jester of sorts, and always the abandoned or the lonely, the loner, or what have you. But what Leslie's talking to is what we call we'll call him golden child.
Golden child.
So carry on about the golden child.
So the golden child, we were at a family powwow to say about how to take care of the unit, and the golden child had released us from our duties, quote unquote, because she was wanting us to, in the narcissistic, I mean, this is just classic. She wanted us to all take off from work once a week and rotate and come and stay with her, and that just wasn't going to happen. So the narcissistic golden child said, Darcy and Leslie, you're relieved from this because Mom really resented you all your lives. And so for me, that was the first time that light bulb went off and said, thank you. Someone else finally said that. Someone else besides myself knew that my mother resented me all my life. And from that time forward was just there's like this big snowball of like emotions, feelings, things coming back to me, the abuse, the memories of abuse, the memories of all the really just awful, terrible things, jealousy, abuse, just negligence. And so I then, after she passed, I hadn't been in touch with the oldest brother and he mostly took care of everything. And I was up on business in LA, and I said, let's get together. I'm going to be up in your neck of the woods. And we met, and we were just having a conversation about how she passed and how that was. And she said, Leslie, I've got to tell you something. And I said, oh, what? He said, do you remember when Mom spilled the water on your leg? I said, of course I do. How would I forget that? He said, well, I saw the whole thing, and she did it on purpose. So, of course, tears, just like, oh, of course I knew that. Of course that was coming to me. But that was just, again, I talk about before knowing and after knowing my experience of being in the narcissistic family, or with the narcissistic mother, and talking with Darcy a lot about just all the aspects of my chart, how that being hidden from me, or my chart, or the way that I expressed that, was to just hide it from myself. It was almost myself hiding it from myself to protect myself. And that's the only thing I can explain it to, is there's just so many other bad things that came on. And I didn't, for some reason, I don't have the aspect that was Darcy that was fighting back. Mine was more to retreat, just go, figure out how to live my life, figure out how to buy my own things, do all that stuff till I can get out. And that's basically what I did.
Right. So once again, going back to the whole, I don't want this video to come across as blame, because her and I both know at the end of the day that it truly is self-healing. Her and I could easily, oh my God, and my mom, no, because it's still, no matter what, if you get involved in a friendship, a personal relationship, and you come out of it and all you're doing is blaming the other, you better take a long fucking look at what you came from, which landed you there to begin with. And mind you, there's the very spiritual community, oh, well, maybe they just needed to go through that. I come from a psychological standpoint, so I am always going to go back to the parents. That's just me. That's Moon Pluto. That's what Moon Pluto does. It will dig and dig and dig and dig and dig till it gets to the core of the issue. So I don't want this to come across as blame. I want this to come across as recognition, rebuilding a structure, releasing it, moving on and healing as an adult, and carrying on more conductive, more succinct relationships in the future. So one thing I want to mention for the folks of you, and this is kind of not astrology related, but if you are still the kid stuck with a living narcissistic parent and they're well into their old age, which sucks even worse because the memory and the attitude of the parent can get more staunch, even more,
the expressions of the ugliness get worse. They really do.
Yeah. All I can suggest is, please, if you have to cut it off, do so. And I know many of you have had a hard time listening to certain things that I've said about my mom, but when it came to her death and her passing, I truly knew in my heart I had to bow out. So Leslie and I bowed out. We curtsied and said goodbye. We did not, oh God, how many months?
So it was probably in October. Yeah, it was October, November, so 2 full months of it where it was like done.
Yeah, I was not at my mom's deathbed.
Mm-mm.
I have no desire. I knew this. Now, there's a lot of kids of narcissistic parents who go and seek out that validation at the end of the parent's life, and the child is hoping that there's some sort of reconciliation, right? Or
aha moment of the parent,
right?
Like, that they'd come around and like, oh, I mean, I had that too. I think I told you I went one time when I had a trip cancel and I ended up driving up to her house and thought that there was just a glimmer of hope, and it was like, and I thought, okay, I'm done. I'm done. This isn't, not going to ever happen. And it was just built on there, right? Because after that, the whole thing happened with the family powwow, and then it just became, I mean, there were times, I will tell you honestly, that I would call Darcy and say, did she die yet? Did she die yet? Because, and two, her energy was hanging around a lot. And I could, it was very thick and heavy and dense. And it just was odd getting through that. Remember when I met you at on the way home, Whole Foods, we were talking about, I don't know if I had gone up there or something.
And you were passing and we met there? And
yes. I had gone by, or I had talked to somebody, and she had not yet passed. And I was just catching up with you about what I had. Maybe it was on that trip on the way home from going up to see if I could catch up with, get her to come to awareness. And I came by and I met with you. And it was still, it was terrible. But I remember saying, the queen, she still lives. It was like, oh, rats. It was really just, and it was really more of an energetic thing. I just wanted her to go because she was hanging on so, it was, at that point, she was hanging on so, like, with claws.
Desperately.
Just desperately.
Yeah.
And we had both written it off. It's like, this is not going to happen, and there's nothing else here to do or say, and I know that may sound harsh, but that was what it was. And so she would hang around energetically. And
even afterwards, Leslie and I had a couple discussions. It was probably 2-3 weeks after the passing that we could still feel the energetic, earthbound cling, so to speak, because spirit passes through all things, as you guys know. And some of you guys know that I've worked in hospice and I've seen people transition. When you have a narcissistic parent, that, how do I say, that energy will stay earthbound as long as it can, because it's clinging to ego, right? So when you dissipate, your last thing is your breath. So when you cross, your ego conscious remains these things, these cats, these couches, these pillows, these cups, and you can cling to that. Whereas the spirit who has reconciled and is ready to transition, it knows it becomes nothing, right? And it transitions back into everything. Hence why they say, I am nothing, but I am everything. So anyway, we kind of got off course there, but what I wanted to tell you guys who are still stuck with the narcissistic parent is, please don't give up hope for yourself in your own healing, but also please don't subject yourself, because that's truly inhibiting growth on a massive scale. So I just want to look at my closing notes. I think that might be it. And be aware, if there's mental illness and it's not talked about, investigate it. Look at it. Because at least it will clue you into what possibly could be going on in the family dynamics. So you guys, thank you. I know it was a little bit lengthy than most of my videos, but I just wanted to give, you guys know I do most of my videos solo, or I'll do them with my girlfriend Emma. But I thought this would be really important, sibling to sibling, because you don't see it much on YouTube. It's just this one shot, one speak to speak to the two different aspects and how they relate differently to the mom and how they played out as an adult, and that there is healing available. Okay, have a great 2017. Adios.